Hello everyone. We are supposed to start episode 105 of Teh Tarik with Walid, but it seems there are some technical difficulties. Ravi and I have been trying to go live for 1 hour actually in our practice room and we couldn't. Oh, yay! Oh my god! Finally!
Yeah, I know.
Democracy is hard, in
Yes,
Singapore, Ravi.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh wow, Sarabjit said, today's developments, will it be a boon or bin for the opposition? So we'll get to that. But Rabi, thank you so much for coming.
It's a
And
pleasure.
thank you for kickstarting my election series. So, I've done the pod for 100 plus episodes, but this is the first episode in the lead up to the elections. And I thought, a lot of people, I mean, the PAP, everyone knows the PAP, even the Workers' Party and others, but the smaller parties, not so much, right? Even though you took on probably the toughest task in Singapore politics, right? Which is taking on the most popular politician in Singapore
Yeah,
in Jurong GRC. And you did pretty well, I would say, right? Given the circumstances. Got back deposit 20 plus percent, right? So I think that's nothing to scoff at. But maybe you could introduce your party to us, what
sure.
it stands for, and also one of the questions I always get is, why do we need so many parties, right?
Sure.
Why do we need Red Dot? Why can't all these smaller parties just join WP or SDP?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've always said that I've not shied away from saying that the RDU is an accidental party, right? We formed 3 weeks before the last general election. But we're never a party without a focus, never a party without a vision. And the most important thing is we promised when we were formed in the lead up to the last general election, which was in 2020, that we will not only appear during elections, but we will be engaged in between elections in the lives of people. And I think we have kept our promise. We are largely a volunteer-based, volunteer-run organization, as I would assume most opposition political parties are. And when you don't have a paid staff on your payroll, it's very difficult to keep an organization going. I mean, even in the last 5, 10 years, we have seen political parties either go dormant or
Yeah.
closing down, because it's never easy to to keep a volunteer-run organization going. I know because I have been involved in volunteer welfare organization, perhaps for like 25, 30 years of my life, right? So it's very difficult to keep volunteers motivated, to keep them believing in a cause, and so on and so forth, right? So um, I think we have kept our promise. We have not. We have been able to keep our promise because people have believed in our vision, especially a lot of young people. We have about 200 people who are volunteering with us in different areas in policy research, in comms, in ground operations, in logistics, and so on and so forth. And most of them are, I would say, 35 years old and below. Like 70% of them are 35 years old and below. So we're a very youth-based party. And we have been able to do what we have been doing because of the people who have believed in our vision, have decided to walk alongside us.
What is that vision, Ravi?
The vision is for a more plural Singapore, a fairer Singapore, a Singapore where all voices are heard, regardless of how small that voice is, right? Um, and trying to incorporate that voice into the policy making decision. Yeah, so I think that's our mission, I think.
Okay. Why do we need another party? You were part of other parties before as well, right?
Yeah.
So
So
why? Yeah.
I mean, I think we have, people ask me this question a lot. So, I mean, we never shy away from answering these questions, right? Sometimes, and what I used to say is, I have been involved in other political parties, but, I have not moved away from the Android system to the Apple operating system, right? We're still within the same operating system, you see. So, and so sometimes, why do people move from one place of work to another? There are many different reasons for that, right? Because sometimes the culture may be different from what you are comfortable with, what you're familiar with, what aligns with your own values, you know. But I think I have been involved in the socio-political life of Singapore since 2008 at least. And I think people who know me know that I have been true to my values. I have been true to the vision of a more plural Singapore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you said people move jobs for all sorts of different reasons. Sorry, Ravi, can you move the camera a bit? I cannot see as in so I can see a full, so we get a
Can
more glamorous shot of you.
you see me now?
Okay, yes, this is better.
Okay,
This is
okay.
better. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, what what is the cultural difference? Like, let's say you're helping out with PSP, right? You were with
I
them.
know.
So, what would be the difference? Why the need to? One of the questions I always get asked is, why do we have so many different parties? Is it because all these different people they all have egos and they all, which which for me is always a strange question, because
Right.
if you don't have an ego, you wouldn't be in politics, right? That's not, it's not a bad thing, right? So
Yeah.
to have, it's just about how you wanna, what do you channel it towards, right? So I always find that, but a lot of Singaporeans do ask that question. So that's why I'm asking you as well. Why do you need another party? Why not just continue to be part of that battle? Since you say it's still the same Android system, right? They all share roughly the similar values, right? But why do we need a different party?
I think, well, let's put it another way, right? If RDU was not formed in the lead up to the 2020 G, the people in Jurong, they wouldn't have had a contest in the 2020 G, right? And I think one of the main reasons is everybody sized up Dharman, that he's perhaps the biggest Goliath there is
Yeah.
in the PAP, and it's not worth it to go up against
Yeah.
him. And so, if there was no RDU, the people in Jurong wouldn't have had a contest in the last election, right? I mean, this is something that Dr. Chee Soon Juan said to me on nomination day, right? He came up to us. We were both our parties were going to go to the same uh, nomination center, so we met up unexpectedly met up at a coffee shop. He walked up to us and he said that, Ravi, I'm so happy that you are here and you are contesting Jurong, and I was really afraid that Jurong is going to go without a contest. So I take that as an endorsement. I take that as a need of the time for RDU to be formed. Um, yeah, so
Okay. So
that's
there
how.
is, yeah, thank you. There is a question here by Dikov. Do you feel that smaller opposition parties will only be able to attract protest votes? So what is the value proposition for having such plurality? So a lot of people would probably vote for RDU because it's a vote against the PAP rather than a vote for RDU. So is there a problem? Do you think that, so what if they do that, or do you want to stand for something more?
Well, I don't even think that's how you should classify. I'm not sure about other political parties, but if you talk about numbers, we are not a small political party. So we may not have the legacy. I mean, it's a fact that we were formed 5 years ago. So we may not have the legacy of the Workers' Party, which is even older than the PAP, right?
Yeah.
We may not have the legacy of SDP, which was formed in the 1980s. PSP is a fairly new
New.
party as
Yeah.
well, but Doc has been a PAP MP for 26 years. So we don't have that kind of a legacy, right? So, but that doesn't mean that we are a small political party by numbers in any sense, right? I wonder if, I mean, if anyone just goes and looks up our Chinese New Year walkabout, which we had last Sunday, we had about 60 volunteers who walked with us in six
Wow.
different constituencies.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that post. Yeah.
it's never easy to do that. So by no means are we a small political party. So yeah, so people who think that we are small just need to go and
Hmm.
our look at our social media posts.
Oh, fighting words ready for election already. Huh, Ravi, I wanted before we get to more party stuff, right? I mean, I've known. I mean, we've been in circles. I mean, we are not friends, but we
Yeah,
definitely know each
of
other,
course, of
and
course.
we have been cordial with each other. But I used to know you back then, right? Many years ago, a decade ago.
Yes.
We used to argue much more online, and you used to be more aggressive. Like you've mellowed down a bit with is it with age or what? What is that with what
No,
is
because I always know my role, right? In the past, I am a social political commentator. I'm a blogger. And it is my role to be to push boundaries. It is my role to stir conversations and
right,
debate. Whereas I play a different role now, right? I
right.
am the leader of a political party, and I need to conduct myself in a certain manner. I am responsible for the people who are under me. And I know all of these things because I have been the CEO of a fairly large organization, and I know the role that a leader has to play
Yeah,
when leading an organization. So I mean, we play the roles to which we put our heads on, like, you know. So
right. No, that's
yeah,
that's maturity, right? Like
yeah,
you are very aware also that you're playing different roles. So your
right,
even the temperament needs to be different, and yeah,
yes,
okay.
yeah.
And
But
also I guess
at the
sorry,
end
yeah.
of it, if you ask me if it's the same Ravi, it's the same me. You
Right,
know,
right,
I
right. Yeah,
still feel for the same things. I
yeah,
still believe in the same things. My values are the same. Nothing
right.
has changed. Yeah.
Right. And you would, I actually would agree with it. That's quite a sharp characterization, right? As a social activist, actually, you have more room, right, to be more
Yeah.
loud, and you can, in fact, sometimes you can push a bit more, right?
Yeah.
Because people also maybe wouldn't think, oh, this guy is doing this just for partisan politics. And
Yeah.
and as a leader of a party, you have different considerations, right? You have
Yeah.
to move to the middle a bit more. You have to bring in as many people as possible,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So no,
Yeah.
that's really useful. And I wanted to get to your activist background because that is fascinating, right? Because you are an activist, true blue activist, turned politician, and I do think there's some value. There's a lot of value in that as opposed to someone who grew up in politics, not grow up, but 20 plus, you're already
Mm.
so embroiled in politics. But there's a question from Sarabjit. I'm not sure we can say having more opposition bring about plurality. The PAP as incumbents can rightfully say they are engaging quite seriously with differences, bringing about pluralism. How do you respond to that? The question on pluralism, it can come from just within the PAP and also the PAP engaging people. You don't need opposition to do that.
Sure. I mean, I'll be very honest here, right? When I came back from the US in 2007, 2008, I think, and I started writing for TOC, one of the first politicians to reach out to me was Mr. Shanmugam. And he asked me if I would come volunteer with the PAP. And I said, I mean, he asked me if I would join the PAP, and I said, why would I join the PAP, you know? I've not had anything good about the PAP, And he made me a value proposition. He said that why don't you come and help me in my meet the people session, and then you can find out more about the PAP. So after thinking through it for a while, I did joined his MPS. I was a letter writer in his MPS. I did that for a few months, and it gave me first-hand experience to see what's happening in the PAP run constituency, how people come to the PAP for PAP MPs for help, how the MPs help them, how the volunteers interact with them. So it gave me a first-hand look at it, and I really appreciate the volunteers. Most of them come there because they want to do something good for the people. When you do good, you feel good yourself, right? So, and then I had to assess, and I felt that I don't need to go once a week for 2 hours to do something good. I was in the social services sector. I do good every day, So, and more importantly, I think it's a system that needs changing.
Hmm.
Some people feel that they can change the system by being part of that system. And of course, the PAP has co-opted a lot of people into the PAP. But let's be frank, let's be honest. Has any of them been able to change the system? Maybe very minimally here, tweak there, but I think the system is so huge that it's more likely that it will change you rather than you changing the system. So
Famous last words, right? Change from within, right? So
yeah,
I think that's definitely true. I also do think that there is value in having opposition and good opposition. Plurality of voices. Plurality of voices need to come from everywhere, from the opposition, from within the PAP, from NMPs, although that scheme I think is on the ropes now. Uh, um, but yes, I definitely agree with you. So I do think that it's always useful to have external as well as internal checks. So today's events, I mean, and I think we need to be a bit careful because Pritam already said he is appealing.
right.
So we don't want to get into the realm of sub judice. But so let's not talk about the case per se. But what do you think will be the impact on the elections for you? For your party, will there be any impact at all? Because do Singaporeans see the opposition as one big bloc? How is it? Is it gonna hurt? Is it actually gonna help?
Well, I think it all depends on which. See, there are different voter segments, right? And I mean, some older people, when you walk in I mean, we have been walking in Jurong for about 5 years now, right? And so I mean, in the beginning, Singaporeans are usually very kind people. I know
Yeah,
they will never tell you, hey, I don't want you,
yeah,
go over here or whatever,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the 5 years of walking the ground in Jurong GRC, there's only one person who told us, "Hey, I'm a PAP supporter. Get out from here." And also, he slammed the door. There's only one person who did
Right.
that to us, right? But we have seen a marked difference in the way that people approach us, in the sense that we've become a more familiar face there. I mean, in the past, people would still talk to us, but from behind the gates. But now they open the gates, they let us into their homes. They share with us their albums, what their grandchildren are doing, and so on and so forth. And
Sorry, Ravi, is that because they are more familiar with you or because it's people are less scared to be associated with the opposition in general?
I think its familiarity is very, very important
Okay.
for Singaporeans. Yeah. So I mean, and sometimes when we introduce ourselves as a opposition party, we were chided by an older man. He said, "Don't say opposition party. Say you're an alternative party. You're an alternative to the PAP." He was in his late 60s.
That's
So
that's good advice actually, right?
yeah. I mean, I think I'm not really sure, is it? Because I'm in two minds about it. Of course, it's the people who have to decide. I know that we are in the Westminster system, which has, where there's a loyal opposition, and that's where the opposition party actually
Right.
comes from. But I'm also aware that there are other segments, when we walk the ground, outside of Jurong. Some people assume that we are from the workers, but they will actually ask us, "Are you Workers' Party? Workers' Party? Support Workers' Party." So, uh, yeah. So, but you know, yeah. So there are different segments. Some people they are more in tune to what's happening in the social political sphere. Very recently, I think about 3-4 weeks back, we were in Nee Soon, in Chong Pang, and after walkabout, we were sitting down to have a drink, and this older gentleman he walked to me. He said, "I know you. Are you coming to Nee Soon?" I said, "I don't know. We are thinking about it. Because we don't really know because the electoral boundaries are not out yet, right?"
Yeah.
So he said that you need to be here for the long haul. The Workers' Party here was here, the PSP was here, but they all didn't stay for the long haul. I hope you won't do the same to us as well.
Mm.
So that really touched my heart, because he was very sincere
Yeah.
in how he expressed himself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So that was what I wanted to ask as well. Where are you contesting? But just to put the lid on that question. So you don't think that today's events are too significant electorally?
I think they could tip tip it in the favor of the opposition,
Mm. Mm.
yeah.
Okay. I think for a lot of I think there's a sizable amount that will happen too as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Probably there'll be some who are middle ground who maybe turned off by the opposition by
Mm.
today, but I do think there'll be
Yeah,
other people as well. But
yeah,
ultimately, right? I think there will be other issues that actually matter far more
of course.
than this, right? Like cost of living and
Yes.
housing prices, which we'll get to as well. So where are you contesting? Can you give us some scoops today, right? That I want to be ahead of the Straits Times and CNA.
I mean, we won't know, right, until
Yeah,
the electoral boundaries report is
yeah.
out. We will definitely contest Jurong. The people in Jurong have been very kind to us. There is a lot of brand recognition of our campus. Um, and we have also been actively walking the ground in Nisun. Um, yeah, so these are the two big GRCs that we are looking at. But we have been very upfront that we will contest at least two GRCs and two SMCs in the coming
Oh,
election.
okay.
Yeah.
So the two SM, where are you? Are you going to an SMC or will you be staying? Oh,
Uh, Too early to tell. I'm the party leader, right?
right.
So Uh, I think that I need to lead, so that's a call of my role, right? So that's something that I cannot that I must always keep at the top of my head, right?
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So um, yeah, we have
And
enough people to. I mean, we have been very upfront. There are about 20 people who have gone through our potential candidate training. Not everyone will be fielded, but we've been training for the big day since February last year. So we're very
okay.
serious.
So there are a couple of questions on that, the opposition, horse trading, if you can call it that, or negotiations. Um, is avoiding a three-cornered fight an important thing to you, or you think that no, this is a democracy. Let people choose. You're not too bothered about it.
I think where we can, we must avoid three-corner fight. There's wisdom in that, right? Because in Singapore, elections are not cheap. When we decide to, for example, when we decide to contest Jurong in the last election, we needed $70,000 just for deposit, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
boy.
nobody had
Yeah.
$70,000 lying
Yeah.
somewhere around, right? But so it's in the context of Singapore, elections are very, very expensive. So I think there's wisdom to make sure that you don't go in, you try to avoid three-cornered fights, right? But I think for us, there are some non-negotiables, and
I'm assuming Jurong is a non-negotiable for
yes,
you.
yes, yes, of course, yeah. So, yeah, and I think the other political parties, we have mutual respect
Yeah.
with the other political parties. I think goodwill is very, very important.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, actually, I think that goodwill is a currency, right?
Yeah.
And try not to use up my goodwill,
Yeah.
regardless of who it is.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's yeah, absolutely right. It's not just in politics, right? In life also, especially since elections is not a one-off game, right? That
yes,
goodwill is needed for subsequent
yes,
elections.
yes,
For yeah, okay, okay. So as far as possible, you will be avoiding three-cornered fights.
yes,
So
yes.
Jurong is non-negotiable. So even if Pritam personally wants to contest in
Uh, of course, anything is possible, but is it plausible? So
Okay, okay. All right. So I think Pritam will hear this and he won't go near Jurong. But yes. Um just so two GRCs, two SMCs. So at least you're looking at 10 to 12 candidates.
yeah, that's a minimum two GRCs and two
Oh,
SM.
minimum for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, where will this come from if other parties also probably would have their non-negotiables as well, right? I'm thinking PSP would say West Coast is non-negotiable for us. And SDP would say, depending on whether the two SMCs are still around, Dr. Cheese and Prof. Tambaya, where they contested. So, how would there be enough to go around?
I think there'll be enough seats. I even think that some constituencies may go uncontested in the next election.
Really,
Uh,
you think so?
yeah. There
Okay.
has been some talk going around of repeating the by-election strategy.
Yeah.
Also.
I think that by-election strategy. By the way, for those who are unfamiliar, there were a couple of occasions where the opposition decided to not contest 50% of the seats in order to return the PAP to power on nomination day, so that the strategy is people would be more willing to vote for the opposition since the freak election theory cannot be used. However, I think that is long gone, right? I don't think the by-election strategy would be feasible anymore with the number of parties, with the strength of the WP, PSP is also expanding, SDP as well.
Um, I mean, the talk has been there, even among the different political party leaders. But I'm not sure how seriously the different parties are looking at it.
Yeah,
The thing is because we don't want to scare voters, right? Because Singaporeans still want the PAP to be the government. But there is a certain sense that they want credible opposition in parliament to be a check on the
yeah,
PAP. So if more people were being uh, if more people were being more seats were contested, excuse me, if more seats were being contested, there can always be a fear that um, you know that the PAP may be voted out of, or they may become a
yeah,
much smaller government, right?
yeah. That's
So,
yeah,
I mean, we in the opposition circle, we do talk about all these things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So how do we give the assurance? So one way to give that assurance is to make sure that you know you have the by-elections, you employ the by-election strategy.
Hmm. I mean, the Workers' Party probably will be contesting 30 seats, maybe at least 20 plus.
I
Um,
think I wouldn't speculate on anything. You
mhm.
know, I mean it's possible. I
Yeah.
mean that's what the media keeps saying. I mean I note that in the last GE and the one before that, the Workers' Party has always been very conservative in fielding
Yes. Yeah.
the number of candidates because they want to send a certain message to the
Yes.
voters.
Correct. But it's
Uh,
still that their conservative is still 20, right? So they will
mm.
be contesting 20 plus. So that only 20 plus remain if by-election strategy is to be employed.
Well, there are 90,
Now there's
uh,
93, probably it'll
nine,
increase to, let's say, 96, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
97, 97, 95,
yeah.
97 maybe,
Right,
yeah,
right, right. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, around there between 95 to 97. But let's say there's 100, so 50 seats. That's not feasible anymore, right?
Well, I am, I think they feel that 20 candidates, I'm not sure how many constituencies, 20 odd candidates or
Right,
25.
right, right. Yeah.
I'm not sure how many constituencies they actually
Yeah, yeah.
contested, right?
Yeah, not
So there are more than enough seats, that's for sure.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. Can. So somebody asked Akmal, I believe, Yuhua, is that in play for you?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Because I mean, Yuhua is just across the road, right, from Jurong GRC. So people who live in certain parts of Jurong East, they have to go to the Yuhua market to do their shopping and all that. So
Right.
it's a natural
So
boundary.
that's
So
something where you have been working with
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
of
Yeah.
course, we have been
Okay.
walking there as well.
Got it. So no plans to come to the east, right? So you are firmly in the west.
We are looking more in the west and in the north,
Okay.
not in the east yet.
Okay. So that's an interesting question by Arun. He may know something that we don't, but he said that as an ethnic minority, what are your thoughts on minority representation? And how do you feel potentially going up against Raj Joshua Thomas as the minority candidate in Jurong? That was quite a leap. I don't know how he got to that, but there has been talk, and I think that talk, I wouldn't dismiss that talk immediately. The fact that two NMPs resigned, I mean, probably they are going to join the PAP, right? Uh, and both are minorities, right? And it speaks to something probably. Is it getting harder for the PAP to get candidates? Is it harder for the PAP to get minority candidates? Sarabjit just now asked, has it gotten easier for the opposition? And I think for a lot of people will be, when we hear that, the opposition is easy to get candidates. Maybe it's gotten easier
Yeah.
compared to 5 to 10 years ago. Of course, it's still not as easy as the PAP for sure. But do you think it has gotten easier before we get to your potential opponents?
I think, I mean, I can't speak for other political parties, but for a new political party like RDU, like I already said, we have like 20 people who are going through the potential candidate training. And, so, and among them, we have a nuclear scientist. Um, we have a A-star, former A-star research director, um,
Wow.
so for a new political party like I think it all depends on what you're building, right? I think it's to me it's very important what you're building. And for us, we are not building a political party. We are building a movement. We are very, very clear about that. Because if you're building a political party, then you only exist in between elections.
Yeah.
There's no other purpose for you, right? If you're elected into parliament, then okay, you are active throughout the 5 years, right? But if you're not, then you become dormant for 5 years and you come alive during election cycles, right? So because I'm very clear that we are building a movement. So sharing of ideas, bringing people on board. I think it's very, very important for that. So if you ask me if it's easier to attract candidates, it's never easy for, especially for an
Yeah,
opposition political party, right? Because there's still the fear factor, like, would it
for
affect my
sure,
career?
for
Uh,
sure.
but I can tell you one story, right? I'm a storyteller, so I like to make my points by telling story, right?
Please, yeah.
So so there was this two 3 years back, we had an opening in our CEC because one of our CEC members resigned, right? So we are a very democratic party. So we said that there's an opening if anyone wants to apply to be co-opted into the CEC, this is how you may do so, right? So one person, he messaged me. He was a senior lecturer in a polytechnic. He still is, and he said that, uh, can I apply to be co-opted? And I was surprised, right? Say, would it affect your,
Yeah,
because
your
I
job.
see, for me, family is important, your career
Oh,
is
okay.
important. Everything else comes only after family and career, right?
Indeed.
So I suggested to him, hey, why don't you go and talk to your HR, see how they feel about it. So he did that. He went to speak to his HR. His immediate HR didn't know how to respond to him.
Of
He
course.
sent him up the ladder, and he finally spoke to the I think the most senior director in the HR department, and their response was, "RDU, right? No issues." So that was
Really?
what he told me, like. So there were questions in his mind, right? So what if it was some other party, would they have said no, So
Right.
uh, so I think we're
Yeah, that's
good.
why I'm curious. What other party would have been problematic for? But I guess you can only speculate. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, right.
interesting. So
So, but
RDU is seen as a responsible, safe opposition party. That's
that's how we have positioned ourselves, as we don't just shoot our mouths off, there's a lot of thinking that goes behind, there's a lot of policy research. Our comms team is very valuable in keeping us. I mean, so far we've been POFMA proof, so
right.
uh, yeah. I mean, not that we are afraid of POFMA or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but it distracts you see, from the task at hand, you see.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I am happy to say also that 105 episodes I haven't been performed. Lot, but of course, these things you never know when, especially
Yes.
you do things live, right?
Mm,
Obviously,
right.
some of my stupid jokes may not
Yeah.
land, whatever it is, so as it, not that I'm asking for it. I am happy that I haven't been
Yes.
performed,
Yes.
but we never know these things, right? So.
Right.
What would be a realistic now? Is a Tamanless Juro. What is a realistic target? I know you're gonna say you are going to contest to win, but let's say you don't win. What would you be happy with now?
Well, we have
You're
we have
looking.
done some research we've done some paid research actually in Jurong. And the research shows that there's a lot of brand recognition of the RDU symbol. The people, I mean, me and a couple of other people are familiar faces that the people are comfortable with. One of them is Liana. I think you
Yeah, of
already know.
course. I've
Yeah,
had Liana on very early
yeah,
on. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah. So and people do actually tell us that now that Dharman is not here, you have our support. So
Wow.
uh, yeah, I mean, even in the last election, right? This is something that a lot of people don't know. Um, we were. I mean, we went into the last election not. I mean, we know that since no one is going to be contesting there, we probably won't lose our deposit, because, uh, and we were all on the polling day, we all were assigned to different counting centers. The different candidates were assigned to different counting centers. And I was assigned to um, Taman Jurong, right? So I went to this counting center, and my heart sank. The first table that I went to, my heart actually sank because we were scoring something like 11%, 12%, And I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to lose our deposit?
Right, right,
And as
right.
I was thinking that, Darman walks in. And then Darman said, I looked at him and I said, I still remember the conversation, right? I said, oh, looks like you're nailing it. And then he said, you know how he talks like? I said, no, Ravi, you're actually doing very well for a 3-week old party, in the other counting center. So I thought he was like being nice to me, uh, so I refused to I refused to believe it. I went out
Right,
of the counting center, called my colleague, called Liana, who was in Bukit Batu.
right.
I said, hey, how are we doing there? Then he said, hey, Ravi, not bad, we are scoring 38%, 39%, very
Wow.
good. I said, wow, that's a good number, for a
So
3-week course.
where Taman was specifically, that was where
Yeah, that's right. Then
that's
I
where
called
you
Clementi and we were scoring something like 32, 33, 34, 35, the different
wow.
counting tables. And then nearer it got to Darman, it keeps dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. So, I mean, Darman is
Right. So
unbeatable,
so
three.
if he contests in an SMC, he'll get 90% or what? Like
Yeah, possible.
yeah, my
So
God.
can I tell you two more stories, please? I like to
Please,
tell
please.
stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but I think despite that, right, we did very, very well, very, very well with the young people. And the young people voted for us because I think they don't know much about Dharman compared to the older
Yeah.
people. So, last election was a COVID election, right?
Yeah.
So we went to flyer in an eatery near Upper Bukit Timah, Beauty World Center. Beauty World Center for some reason is under Jurong GRC line. So I went into this small eatery all by myself, gave the flyer to a family that was eating, an older gentleman, his wife, and a young man, I assume is their son. So the older gentleman took my flyer. He looked at me, and he said, "Oh, you are the one going up against Starman." So from his tone, I know that he's not going to give me his vote. But the young man was just eating, was not even looking at me. And when he heard going up against Arman, he dropped his cutlery, looked at his dad, and he said, "Papa, they're very good leh. Did you see their rally speech or not?" Then the father's face turned red. Right? I didn't want to be involved in that conversation because it's a family conversation. I excused myself from there. Right. So from that conversation, I knew that the parents were probably going to give Darman their votes, and and this young man was probably going to give his vote to us, right? Another incident happened immediately after polling day. I mean, we had Dharma had won. We're going around thanking the people for voting us and all that. So we went into one hawker center, and a young family, a middle-aged man was having breakfast with his wife and his children. And before I could bring the flyer to him, he said, "Donate. I didn't vote for you." So I thanked him. I went to the next table, which was a longish table. About 7, 8 young men were having their tawai chui and their morning breakfast there. They saw what this man said to us. And before I could reach the table, one of the young men from there, he stood up and he said that, "Uncle, don't worry. We all voted for you." And they started clapping for us.
Wow.
And so I think, compared.
Although I think it's a bit rude to call you uncle.
Yeah. So, I mean, I take it like I'm a
Yeah,
grandfather, right?
it's like I'm still in denial.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
I think I think to me, uncle is a compliment, lah, no, because don't call me grandfather, lah. You know?
No, so this is interesting, right? The generational divide,
Yeah,
and it's most likely going to continue, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
because
that
even I think even younger people generally they like the PAP, they trust the PAP,
right.
but the level of loyalty is not at the same level as
Yes,
the older
yes,
people. So yeah, it's a softer kind of support, right?
yes.
The support is still there, the trust is still there, but it's
Right.
not as
Yes.
sticky as
Yeah.
the older generation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think the trust factor is very, very important, which is why, I don't try to pretend, I mean, that's something that I tell my people as well. Don't try to pretend because people can see through you, who
agreed,
you are,
agreed, agreed. Yeah,
and it's a
don't.
genuineness, the
Yeah,
trust that you
yeah,
can,
and politicians, you cannot say everything you want all the time, right?
right.
So that's just part of the job, right? I think
Yeah.
being a politician, what I say is you lose the right to be a douchebag on your worst days.
Right.
Like you
Right.
cannot just when you drive you horn
Yeah.
when you know you're having a bad day, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean you should be pretentious because people really see through that. People
Yes.
really see through that. People can see through your silly TikToks if it's not genuine. The genuine part is so
Right.
important. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
So,
okay, yeah. So I wanted to ask something. I mean, it's almost been, I think it's 40 plus minutes already. RDU issued a statement on Palestine some time ago, right?
right.
So, and this is not going to be the number one issue of the election, but I do think for a small number, probably significant still, maybe I don't know, 10%, 15%, that this is an issue that could turn the election for them, for this small group, right? And what is RDU's stand with regard to what the government is doing now? Would you say that the government have done a decent job? What would you have done differently on this?
For RDU, how we arrived at that, so how we arrived at making that statement, right? That's very important, right? Not like one fine day we woke up and say, "Hey, let's score some political points. Just write this
Right.
letter," and that's not how we operate as well. So we have a policy team. We also have a Malay bureau. We have a youth wing. And sometimes all these different departments are competing with each other. They're all
Yeah.
pushing boundaries with each other, right?
Yeah.
And uh, and of course, we at the CEC, we are the gatekeepers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
say that this, you have to be careful with this. Let's
Yeah.
tone this down, So, so for the longest time, we were in sync with what the Singapore government, uh, how the Singapore government was handling the situation. I mean, no complaints.
Yeah.
I think they have tried their best, so no complaints on that front. But I think the death toll was like getting ridiculously high,
Yeah.
and I mean, where is I mean, for me, where is humanity
Yeah. Yeah.
in all of this, And doesn't matter if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist or whatever. I say it's human beings
Yeah.
who are dying every day. It's children who are being affected. It's women who are being displaced. And it surely needs a stronger
Yeah.
stance than. Of course, Singapore is a very small country. I
Yeah.
don't doubt that for a moment and all that. But still, we're a very influential country, you see. And yeah, so what we hope to do with that statement is to push the Singapore government to do more than what it is
Right.
already doing.
So the point of departure is only about recognition of Palestine.
Mm,
Generally, you would say that Singapore government has done okay given the
mm.
circumstances, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I got. And thank you for that. I think that was important. I think it's important. I appreciated RDU. As you know, I also supported the petition done by Lepak Conversations to
Yeah.
recognize Palestine. So I thought it was important to, and I think no one can accuse you of politicizing that particular issue. Or, I mean, first of all, politicians politicize issues, but no one can say you're trying to score political points because you have supported the
Mm,
government. And even in that particular statement, you didn't disagree with the government much, right?
yes.
It's on this
Yeah.
specific issue. Yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you think Palestine will matter a lot? And it's very interesting because I caught on what you said just now. You have the Malay Bureau and the Youth Bureau when you're discussing this. And because I really see that these are the two groups that care about the issue the most, right?
Yes.
So do you foresee, I mean, from your own interactions on the ground, will this become an election issue?
I think I think if you're asking if it would tip uh you see in every election, right? So if RDU wins, okay, let's put it that way, right? If RDU wins, I'm not expecting that for RDU to win by 60% or
Right,
65% or even 55%. If we win, it's going to be 50.1% or
right, right,
50.2%.
right.
So the margin of winning is going to be very small,
Yeah,
right? So I think the 2%, 3% who vote for RDU because we have
right.
taken a stand on Palestine is
Yeah,
very important for us.
right, right, right. So for the opposition, this matters quite a bit, right? As in all these single issue, seemingly single issue, like it's important to cast the net as wide as possible.
Well, there are differences of opinion even within RDU. There's strong
Mm.
opposition to the statement that we put out there,
Right, right,
even from our own members, because they felt that it's not necessary,
right.
just focus on bread and butter
Yeah,
issue,
yeah, yeah.
because the cost of living is the most important thing.
Right.
I mean, then what's the point of
Yeah.
being a movement? What's the point of having political beliefs, and what's the point of feeling for people and wanting to do what's right when you don't stand up for something that's blatantly wrong? So that's
Thank
my
you.
personal conviction.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that, and because you are absolutely right. Especially, I feel that the opposition parties, figures like yourself, who have built their credential, I think rightly, right, on freedoms and human rights and so on. And then you cannot say that suddenly the line stops here.
Yeah,
The line for here is
exactly.
okay, yeah, human rights, but not those humans, not the
Yeah,
Palestinians, right? So I think I really appreciate what you've said. As in personally, no matter what happens in the elections, I appreciate your statement and what you just said. I agree with
thank you.
your conviction, and I respect you for that. Thank you so much. So, what's realistic for you, Ravi? What is realistic for you? Like, don't give us the politically correct answer, but what is the realistic target for you?
Well, I'm really hoping, I'm quietly confident, like I said, while some of the political parties seem to be having one problem or having to face off with one problem or another, RDU has grown from a 11-man political party to a 200-man political party. And it's never easy to grow a political party like that. I mean, someone was making an observation just a few weeks back, that we are probably in the last 5 years we are probably the party uh, that grew quite fast, and we have our own office. Not many political parties have their own office and all that. So um, I think we are quietly confident of sending a team to Parliament. Uh,
Wow.
we we are building brand. We are very careful that we are building brand. Yeah, so we are quietly confident with
If
that.
what's your sense? Who's gonna be the one replacing Taman, President Taman?
Hard to say, hard to say. But what we know is that some of the MPs there are not as well liked as Tharman. So,
Okay, but that one, I think nobody in the world will be as nobody in Singapore will be as like as Taiwan.
no, I mean, let me tell you a story. Like, I like to
Yes,
tell
yes, please.
stories, right? So, I mean, like when we go for a walkabout, like very recently, the last walkabout, we went to a rental flat in Jurong, and someone said that, uh, I wish Tharman was here. When I bring up my problem to him, he'll just take out money from his pocket and give it to me. Of course, in my mind, I was thinking, hey, is that the best way of
Mm,
helping someone or not? And I'm not even sure if what he was telling me was true or not, right?
right.
Uh, but then he said that the new MPs they don't even look at me. They just look up at the ceiling and then talk, and they're talking to me. So I mean, this are real
I,
feedback
I
from
I
the
have
ground,
no doubts that people do feel that there
right?
is a sense of loss that they. I have no doubts. I mean, I would be shocked. I'm not a man, but if I could bet my house on the PAP team not getting the same
Mm,
vote share. I could
mm,
almost vote my house on that. Bet my house on that.
right.
I mean, and this is again, this is no slight towards the uh, SM Taman's or President Taman's teammates. I like
Sure, of
Rahayu. I
course.
like Xie Yao Chen. Um, but it's the team was carried by Taman, right? And it almost didn't matter. I always say to people, right? Any four random Singaporeans I get, right? Myself plus three others, we would be members of parliament if we were alongside Taman. So,
I
and
mean,
now
I
I think their
I
metal is
know
really going to be
Rahayu.
tested.
I know Rahayu. I know Xie. I know. Okay, when I say no, they're not my friends, lah. But I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
them because I'm working in the constituency, right?
yeah,
And I know Sean, and all of them have been very nice and cordial to me
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
I've approached them. Whenever I've raised issues to them, they have always responded to me.
Right.
So it's nothing personal about them.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah. They
Yeah.
are good. They are good. And it's okay, right? We can have good people with
Mm,
on both sides, right? Like
mm,
if we disagree doesn't mean like suddenly you need to be enemy, like oh you don't have a
right.
conscience or what.
Yeah.
We have different political beliefs and that's it, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, I do think that you will be getting a higher vote share.
Thank you.
Would 40% be satisfactory to you, you think?
I mean, because we are walking the ground, we're getting feedback from the people, and I never play to lose, lah.
Right.
So
So
that's
you are seriously thinking that you can win, Jurong.
well. Let me say that I never play to lose. I mean, regardless of whatever. I've been a sportsman all
Right.
my life. In secondary school, in my secondary four, I was nominated to be the sportsman of the year. Um, I mean, I did. I got gold in shot put, discus, and javelin, all like field sports, like.
Wow. Okay.
But I was the only person to get three golds, so which was why I was nominated to be the sportsman of the year,
Right.
right? So, I mean, and people who know that I'm very, very competitive. At the end of the day, whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. To me, it matters how I play the game. To me, it matters that I play to win. When I say play to win, doesn't mean that I play dirty. I play by the rules.
Yeah.
I don't hit below the belt, but I play to win, and I'm always optimistic about winning.
The contests in Jurong so far have also been pretty cordial, right? They
Yes.
have rarely ever do we see like shenanigans in Jurong, right? So hopefully it continues as well.
Yeah.
That there won't be personal attacks, and it really ruins
No,
the
we
mood.
have crashed, I mean, sometimes when there are block parties, we do crash their block parties. So they've been very cordial
That's
when we
nice.
crash the block parties,
That's
and our grassroots are very. We have grassroots there, and we make it a point to attend their birthday parties, in the constituency. We make it a point to attend the wake, uh, send them wreaths and all that. So we are very much a part
That's
of the community in
that's
wherever we are engaged in.
that's
So I
that's
think that's
one
very important. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Do you expect a tier one minister to replace Taman? What's your sense?
Mm, one possible. I mean, for a while we are hearing that Ng Chee Meng was going to come to Jurong, but that talk has died down. I mean, we welcome. I mean, for me, I welcome Ng Chee Meng. I mean, I'm never afraid of Goliaths, right? So, uh, but I think, but now the talk is there. Now there is some talk that Grace Fu may be the anchor minister
Ah,
and that Yu Hua may be
yeah.
absorbed into
Oh,
Jurong. But we
interesting.
will never know. We'll never know
Yeah,
until
yeah,
we.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
now that you've said that, maybe the PP has to rethink the strategy, maybe because.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any final words, Ravi?
No, I think final words is that it's. I mean, for me, I never ever think of one election. So I think in the context of Singapore, um, the race that we run, especially the people who are in the opposition, it's a marathon, right? So we should never think that 2025 GE, something is going to happen, something is going to change. It may or it may not, right? Um, I mean, I remember when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew he passed away, right? The next morning, I put up a Facebook post saying that Singapore has a new dawn. So I was thinking in my mind, in my very simplistic thinking mind, I was thinking that since Mr. Lee was no longer there, Singapore was going to become more pluralistic, was going to have more democratic freedoms and so on and so forth. And how wrong was I? Right? The 2015 GE was the best
Yeah,
election ever for the PAP,
yeah.
So, uh, but I told my guys, like, after the 2015 GE, right, that Mr. Lee can only die once, like,
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Even I say even Lee Kuan Yew can only die once, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So that can only happen once, right?
yeah,
So
right,
that's a one-off. But it's there are so many moving parts to this election, right? Today
right,
is a huge one. Tomorrow, I mean, when the
yeah,
budget happens, right? That's
yeah,
another one. And who
yeah,
knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? It seems like now on the Palestinian front that is not an electoral issue, but
right,
probably in Ramadan there's gonna be an
yeah,
incursion into
yeah,
Al-Aqsa Mosque, and there can be so many things and then the
yeah,
strategies. Remember Rise Up? I say Rise
yeah,
Up Part One that happened during the hustings, right?
yeah,
And that really did turn a few people. James Lim suddenly becoming an overnight
yeah,
superstar. There are a lot of moving parts, but I guess the constants would be cost of living.
right.
Am I right to say that cost of living and housing prices would be number one and number two?
I think instead of looking at issues, I would like to look at the voter segments again, right? So in the 2020 GE, what turned, who turned against the PAP, right? For the longest time, academics were going on saying it's the young people who voted
Yeah,
against the PAP and so on and so forth. But Lawrence Wong, he went on to the IPS survey. You can look that up.
yeah,
Went onto the IPS thingy talk or something, and he said that it's not only the young people, but
yeah,
also the middle income families,
yes.
who felt that they were not getting enough help from the government, who have turned who have turned away from the PAP, right? And that they were going to better fix that, right? He said something along those lines. So we need to think back in the last 5 years, has life gotten better for you? So that is an important question that
Yeah.
people would have to ask themselves, right? And if life has not gotten better, if that's your answer, then what are you going to do, to make it better for yourself?
What if the answer today is it hasn't? but after the budget, it has.
Well, I think, of course, I know that the government, I mean, it's got a pitfall of money, so they've been spraying money, right? So they see fires, they're just spraying the money like water to put out the fire. But the thing is, the water hydrant is running low, like, so you cannot really hose down the fire, you see. But I know that a bit more goodies would come tomorrow, that's for sure. But I think we cannot have short-term solutions to long-term problems.
Right, right, right.
Of course, we welcome, I mean, we have a reputation of being a fine city, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like we're also going to get a reputation for being a voucher city.
Mm.
So, I mean, in the past, our aspiration was cars, credit cards,
Yeah,
condominiums, the five C's. Right
yeah,
now, it seems like CHAS rebates,
yeah, yeah,
CDC vouchers, conservancy rebates.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's so short-sighted. People are, instead of hoping that you can drive a car, you are hoping how much am I going to get in CDC
yeah,
vouchers? Something is wrong. So
yeah,
if a society starts to
yeah,
think like that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's an extremely good point, right? To think about the longer term and how much whether it has changed for the better.
right,
And your your way of looking at the elections through voter segments, that's absolutely true, right? There will be for a significant number of Singaporeans, they say, yeah, life has gotten better. But there
yeah,
will be another significant portion of Singaporeans who will say, probably not, right? I can imagine now, right? For instance, the housing prices.
right,
How do you solve this without angering a significant segment of the electorate? Like,
right,
are you going to suddenly go back to cost price? Then that would make the young people extremely happy, those who
right,
haven't purchased a house.
right.
People have purchased a house, they say, what's going on? I bought mine
Yeah,
for a few 100,000 and you're going.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, how do you solve that, right?
yeah.
So
Well, at the
thank you
end of the
so, yeah,
day,
please, yeah,
at the end
please.
of the day, it's an emotion. People vote not by their brain thinking, right? It's an emotional thing, right? So, and as a society, we are connected one to another, which is why, if you notice during the elections, right, there is a certain herd mentality. So, and I think why we have that herd mentality is because we feel connected as a people. Somehow we can read each other's minds, say, hey, let's do it this way, let's do it
Right,
this way. So it's an emotional thing. Yeah.
right. Thank you so much, Ravi. I really
Yeah, Walid.
appreciate it. And I wish you all the best
Thank
in
you.
Jurong, Nisun, Yuhua, and what was the other one you mentioned?
Well, we're not sure yet. See how the
Yeah,
constitution come
I
out.
thought you would fall for that. You didn't mention, yes. Thank you so much. I really
All right.
appreciate it.
Okay,
All the
Walid.
best. Bye.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Good night.